All right, Isaiah chapter 40. This whole section from Isaiah chapter 40, 41, 42, 43, the next couple chapters, we get a really awesome glimpse into God. And that's actually why I wanted to sing the song that we sang today, because you're going to see that a lot of it actually comes out of the book of Isaiah that we are really going through right now. In particular, there's some sections that were in Isaiah 40 that we're going to hit on. And there's something unique, though, that I think we can do, and I want us to be able to do as we work through the scriptures over these things, to not just see them as a revealing of Yahweh and who He is, which, yes, we want to do that, right? We get these timeless truths about God, and not just who we see that He is, but that actually who He says He is. That's one interesting thing about these chapters in Isaiah. God speaks for Himself many points, and He even says, test me. Here's how you should test me against the gods of the nations. Do they do this? Do they know this? Have they done this? So God actually He speaks for Himself in this section of Isaiah in a very unique way. I think that just gives us good glimpses into who He is, and it really helps us sit with knowing and understanding God, okay? But then there's a second part to this that as we read through here, I want you to also be thinking about, is that through progressive revelation, we realize that much of this, and as we go through here, you're going to see, and I'm going to point some things out, that when Yahweh reveals Himself, we understand that when Christ came and He walked the earth, that the Messiah was Yahweh. So Jesus is God in flesh. So everything that Yahweh is, Jesus is, right? So as God speaks of Himself and as Yahweh reveals Himself to Isaiah, we have to know and understand that these attributes and these things that make Yahweh special and unique among any other power, any other, little g God or whatever it is, these things hold true of Christ, right? And the things that are revealed about Yahweh, we should just take note as we go through here to remember that these things are true of Christ, right? And I think it'll just bring a little bit more of a clarity and an understanding to how we know God and how we know Christ in light of that as well. So the last time we were together, we stopped at verse 8, okay? So we were in Isaiah 40, verse 9. It says, Zion, herald of good news, go up on a mountain. Jerusalem, herald of good news, raise your voice loudly. Raise it and do not be afraid. Say to the cities of Judah, here is your God. See, the Lord comes with strength, and His power establishes His rule. His reward is with Him, and His gifts accompany Him. So let me just stop there real quick. So you just get this idea that what Zion is supposed to do, right? And so again, I'm gonna point out to you guys that we read a lot of this with New Testament eyes, right? New covenant eyes. So when it speaks of Zion, we're not just talking about God's people, Israel, at this time, like Isaiah is speaking to, but we realize this is every tribe, nation, and tongue. This is what we've pointed out in Hebrews, that the God's people today are called Zion. We are Zion. We've gone to the heavenly mountain. It says the heavenly Jerusalem, Zion. That's in Hebrews chapter 12, right? So we are the ones that shout this message, and the message that they're to proclaim is, here is your God. This is what He looks like. This is who He is. And it says His rewards are with Him and His gifts accompany Him. Does anybody recognize where that particular part is brought out in the New Testament?
I have a question. What chapter are we in?
Isaiah 40. Isaiah 40. Maybe it'll sound familiar to you when in Ephesians, when Paul is talking about what Jesus does, it says in Ephesians chapter 4, it says He came with gifts, right? He gives gifts to men, and that He gave gifts to the church, the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastor, teachers. So there's an interesting connection as we go through here. I think you'll see it, and again, I said I'm going to point it out, that a lot of these things that Yahweh has, we see Jesus has and does, right? So His reward is with Him, and His gifts accompany Him. right? And so look at verse 11 then. It says, he protects his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms. He carries them into the fold of his garment. He gently leads those that are nursing. What did Jesus say? What did Jesus say about a shepherd? Go ahead and speak up. What did Jesus talk about? Is that JL saying that? Yeah. Oh. Jesus said, I am the what? What did he say? I am the good shepherd, right? So look, you have this picture of Yahweh throughout the Old Testament of the shepherd, right? He's the good shepherd. He's the one who protects his flock. He gathers the lambs in his arms. He loves them. He cares about them. He leads them. And Jesus steps on the scene and says, I'm the good shepherd, right? There's no wonder and no surprise that the New Testament authors, and I'm just going to keep working through this section, that they equate Jesus with Yahweh. That not only did he claim to be Yahweh, but they had no problem in their theology to say that Jesus was both God and man, right? He was Yahweh. All the attributes. Yahweh's a shepherd. Jesus says, I'm the shepherd. I'm the one. Yahweh said he looks after his sheep. Jesus says, I have sheep. And you are not my sheep. Some people he said, you are not my sheep. And other ones he said, you are my sheep. And then he says, I have sheep that are not in this fold, and I've got to go get them, right? So Jesus takes upon himself the mantle of the good shepherd. He takes upon himself Yahweh's attributes here. And look at what he said. Look, think about the character of God. He protects his flock like a shepherd. He gathers a lamb in his arms. A shepherd, that's tender, right? When you pick up, when the shepherd who loves his sheep picks up the lamb, the baby sheep, and he gathers it in his arms, he carries them in the fold of his garment. It's close to him. And he gently leads those that are nursing, right? That's God, the gentleness, the comfort of God. Look at 12. Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand? Who marked off the heavens in the span of his hand? Who gathered the dust of the earth in a measure, or weighed the mountains in a balance, and the hills in the scales? Who has directed the Spirit of the Lord? Who gave him counsel? Who did he consult with? Who gave him understanding? Who taught him the paths of justice? Who taught him knowledge and showed him the ways of understanding? Right? This is what we were singing about. There's no one like Yahweh. There's only one uncreated, eternal, all-knowing, all-wise, all-powerful God. None are like him. And this is the God that we behold. This is the one that we proclaim to others, right? There are a lot of lesser gods, little g's, right? There's lords of the earth. There's spiritual principalities and powers. There's a lot. But none of them measure up to the Most High. None of them measure up to the Mighty One, the Holy One of Israel. None of them can give him counsel. He has all wisdom. His Spirit is the one who holds all things together. He gives understanding. He knows justice. He knows knowledge. He gives knowledge. He is our source for all these things. Verse 15, it says, look, the nations are like a drop in a bucket. They are considered specks of dust in the scales. Lebanon is, he lifts up the islands like fine dust. Lebanon is not enough for fuel, or its animals enough for a burnt offering. All the nations are nothing before him. They are considered by him as nothingness and emptiness. This is how great our God is. This should actually give you encouragement even today, right? Sometimes we think, man, the world is out of control. The leaders are going all the wrong direction in our own country, maybe all around the world, in all these places. We have to remember, does anybody else know where this is also a very similar thing is talked about in the scriptures? Does that sound familiar to anybody else in the Old Testament? I'll give you a second.
Say that again.
What's that?
I was going to say, can you say that again?
Yeah, sorry. I'll read it again. It says, look, the nations are like a drop of bucket. They're considered a speck of dust in the scales. All the nations are like nothing before him. They're considered by him as nothingness and emptiness. Someone else in the Old Testament said something very similar. And it was revealed to him. He was actually a Gentile. Any guesses? So do you remember when Nebuchadnezzar is finally humbled and he comes out of his stupor from being like a beast in the field? So he basically says, you are God. He makes this, you could go read it. He proclaims this thing. He goes, you are God. All the nations are in your hands. The rising and the falling of kingdoms is up to you. The nations are like dust in your sight. It's literally almost the exact same thing here. And so when the most powerful man in all the world, Nebuchadnezzar, has that type of revelation about Yahweh, man, that's a big deal. And that's something that should give us comfort and a greater understanding in our own life to realize that God is in control of everything. When we look at the world and we think things are out of control or God couldn't change something or maybe things are just spiraling out, no, He's in control of all of it. He's greater than all of it. He's bigger than all of it. The nations are like nothing. He could rise up another nation tomorrow from dust if He wanted to. He could cast down the strongest nation today if it is in His will. Right? That's our God. Do not grow weak and weary and doubtful and hopeless, because we serve the God of hope. There's always a chance. There's always a time when He could just snap His fingers, metaphorically, and turn things around for the sake of His people. There's always a time when a wicked ruler is rising to power, and if He wanted to take them out, He'll take them out. There's always a time that if in your life you have circumstances that are too great for you to carry and you're going through, you can draw near to Him. Because you always have hope. And not if He doesn't take it from you, He will sustain you in that. He's bigger than everything. He's greater than everything. Even the nations, the entire world is like nothing to Him. It's like a drop in a bucket. It's puny. Verse 18. Who will you compare God with? What likeness will you compare Him to? An idol? Something that a smelter casts? A metal worker plates with gold and makes silver welds for it? To one who shapes a pedestal, choosing wood that does not rot? He looks for a skilled craftsman to set up an idol that will not fall over. So again, you've got these people that are making idols, and they're literally fashioning it with their hands and they're worshiping it. And you're going, that's what you're going to compare God to? Really? That's your God? Your God is this little thing you made? Yahweh can't be compared to these things. Do you not know, verse 21, have you not heard? Has it not been declared to you from the beginning? Have you not considered the foundation of the earth? God is enthroned above the circle of the earth. Its inhabitants are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a thin cloth. He spreads them out like a tent to live in. He reduces princes to nothing, and He makes judges of the earth irrational. They are barely planted and barely sown. Their stem hardly takes root in the ground, and when He blows on them, they wither. Like a whirlwind, He carries them away like stubble.
What's stubble?
Just like little, yeah, sure. Like a dust or like just fine little things. So stubble could be like, I'm just thinking of like a beard, you know. So like right now, Josiah, my face, they consider this stubble. It's like very little parts of hair like on your face, okay? When you shave, you get rid of that, but then, you know, that's stubble. So it's just little particles, okay? But yeah, do you see this? This should really help us put things into perspective of who God is. This should help put things into perspective of our life, right? Even our life in the midst of our community, in the midst of our nation, in the midst of current events, whatever. Keep a proper perspective here, right? Even our life is a drop in the bucket in regards to eternity, right? This time that we have here is so short. It's so little. It's so much like a vapor. I like the rhetorical questions in the beginning of this, right? And remember, Isaiah's speaking to Judah here, right? So these people should know, just like you should know, right? These people are doubting. These people are scared. These people are going against God. And he's going, have you not heard? Did you not read? Don't you know? Hasn't it been declared to you from the beginning? Have you not considered the foundations of the earth? How could you not get that this is God? This is our God. Why are you floundering? Why are you going astray? Why are you doubting? This is the God who loves you, who you serve, who revealed himself to you. You're not like the other people that follow after idols, that go after the ways of the world. You shouldn't act like them. You shouldn't be like them. Because your God is not like their God. Does that make sense? Let me keep going here. 25, it says, who will you compare me to? Or who is my equal? Asked the Holy One. Look up and see who created these. He brings out the starry host by number. He calls all of them by name. Because of his great power and strength, not one of them is missing. This is cool too. I think this is something that, just for all of us here to be encouraged with too. When God reveals himself in this way, he tells you, look at creation. You want to know how powerful God is? Go outside and look up, right? So that's something. And listen, it says even unbelievers are left without an excuse because they have seen God's great power by the things he has made. And God has no problem using evidence of his existence by saying, look up, right? You want to know how strong and powerful your God is? Look at the stars. He created them, he holds them in place, and he numbers them. He knows their name. Can you imagine that? How many stars are up there? And God knows all of their names? That's insane.
It's estimated in the Milky Way that there is 78 billion stars.
78 billion stars. And God knows them by name. He created them. And I think that's that's just mind-blowing. That's why sometimes you go to, I know we've been to the Creation Museum, and there's one of those planetariums in there, and they go through the thing about how, maybe you've seen something like it, where they just show how big the planets are and just how vast the universe is. And you just look at that, and again, you go wow, this is a powerful, whoever made, now we know who, but I'm just saying, even the unbeliever goes, whoever did this is insane. This God must be so powerful. And that's what God says. God says, who are you going to compare me to? Who is my equal? Look up. I created these things. Verse 27, it says, Jacob, why do you say? Israel, why do you assert? My way is hidden from the Lord, and my claim is ignored by my God. Do you not know? Have you not heard? Yahweh is the everlasting God, the creator of the whole earth. He never grows faint or weary, and there's no limit to his understanding. I'll keep going with that, but I want to stop there real quick just to point out Jacob and Israel right now. Let's look at the context real quick. Isaiah is preaching to them, right? He's revealing the word of the Lord to them. Israel has already, the northern kingdoms have been carried into captivity by Assyria. The southern kingdom, which is basically referred to as Judah all the time, has Assyria knocking on the door. God had already revealed to them that Assyria is not going to be the one that carries them away, but that Babylon, they have a time of reprieve, but eventually Babylon's going to come in and get them, right? So what you know about that in the midst of this, he's revealing some of their heart. Israel and Jacob are saying, well, my ways are hidden from the Lord, and my claims are ignored by God. They're saying, God, you're not listening to us. And they're thinking in their heart, they're going astray. Remember, much of Isaiah's message, not only is it of salvation and restoration, but it was a rebuke. Judgment's coming because you guys have been going astray, right? And so they're saying in their heart, well, my way is hidden from the Lord. The Lord doesn't know. And listen to God's, man, sometimes you got to get God's personality in here too a little bit, because I think when you read this, if you read this under any kind of understanding of what, types of literature and types of speech, God is being heavily, rhetorical here, but probably stern and sarcastic a little bit too, if you think about it, right? Do you not know? Have you not heard? Yahweh is the everlasting God, the creator of the whole earth. He never grows faint or weary. There is no limit to his understanding. Now this is Adam right now, but how foolish are you to think he doesn't hear you or see you? Like, are you stupid? You're his people. The God of the heavens and the earth who created all this stuff. You don't think he knows what you're doing? You don't think he cares or hears you? You got the wrong guy if you're off here, right? So he says he gives strength to the weary, he strengthens the powerless. The youth may faint and grow weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who trust in the Lord, they will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. You guys know that's a real popular section of Scripture, right? That's a good encouragement. That's something, man, you should memorize that section. A lot of people have that section memorized because that reveals not only things about God to you, it reveals his promises to you.
Can you read it again?
Yep, I sure will. He says, Yahweh is I'll start at the beginning. Yahweh is the everlasting God, the creator of the whole earth. He never grows faint or weary. There's no limit to his understanding, and he gives strength to the weary. He strengthens the powerless. The youth may faint and grow weary. Young men may stumble and fall, but those who trust in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. When you're in a challenging time, when you're in a tough time, if you're in the situation that the Israelites and Judah is in right now, right? You've got invading nations coming against you. You think that God has abandoned you. You think that maybe your ways are too far from him, from saving you. Whatever it is. What you need to do is fix your gaze back on the Lord of glory. You need to look to Yahweh, the one who does not grow weary and does not faint. You may get tired. You may go through struggles in this world and lose hope and doubt and be faint of heart or of physical body. You may be struggling with a sickness and it is wearing you out, right? But you need to be encouraged that God is none of those things. God does not grow weary. God does not faint. He does not sleep. He does not know that you're in those conditions. And it says if you trust in him, if you lean on him, he gives strength to the weary. He strengthens those who are powerless. He will renew their strength and they will be able to soar like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. There are days in this life where you may feel like you can't get up and you can't go anymore. There are times when you love other people and you forgive other people, or you just feel like you've given too much and you've run out and you got nothing left. We grow weary in those ways. He doesn't. And so if we are going to be strengthened to continue on in our good work, what does Paul tell the Galatians? Do not grow weary in well-doing, for in due time you will reap. Draw near to the Lord, for he is your strength. He is your source. He is the one that if you need those things, if you need ministered to, if your spirit needs to be renewed, fix your eyes upon Jesus. Draw near to Yahweh. Right? As we look on this, and Jesus gave us that example too. More than we can ever imagine as he's in the garden getting ready to endure literally the sin of the world. The sinless one taking upon himself the sin of the world. He comes to the place of drawing near in anguish to the Father. If there's any other way, let this pass me by. You don't think in his humanity he was weary at that point? You don't think he was feeling an immense burden of how much the last 3.5 years of ministry, of being betrayed, of having all this stuff on the earthly side of things come down upon his shoulders? And he says, Father, if there's any other way. He's at the end of his rope, in a sense. He says, but not my will, yours be done. And he draws near to the Father. And it says, after he submits to the Lord's will, it says angels come and minister to him. Right? And so we've got to seek the Lord's face. So we're going to sing a song to, I think you guys probably know. It was really popular like in the 90s. We'll just kind of gather around and sing as we wrap up here. It's basically, it's made out of these words. And so you were asking earlier, Josiah, to read it again. Well, we're going to sing it. So hopefully, I know through song, it helps it to root in your head, right? It'll stick in your head. This is a catchy song. It does a lot of repeating too, which I think is good for memorization. So we're good with that. But let me pray and then we'll sing together, okay? Father, thank you so much for your word. And God, I thank you that we have this section that I hope that as we go through it, we can not only begin to see you more clearly, but we can be reminded and encouraged of who you are. And not only do we need ourselves to be put into perspective from that, but just life in general. Help us to see things in light of eternity, to see things in light of your power and your glory, and to draw near to you to receive strength and grace and mercy. And also, Lord, I pray that it would also, this whole section and the things that we go through, that they would cause us to love Christ more. That as he was the exact representation of you upon this earth who dwelled among us, may we be able to draw near to him as the author and finisher of our faith. And may your Spirit be among us in our day-to-day life and also as we gather together to lead us and guide us in all things. Help us find good to do and to encourage each other on to greater love and good works. Amen.